Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about the past tense. The past tense is used in English to talk about actions that started and ended in the past. It's also used to talk about habits of the past. All right? Quite simple, right? There are certain expressions that command the use of the past tense. If you're talking about something you did yesterday, or last night, last year, this morning, even 2 seconds ago, you need to use the past tense. So oftentimes, as I'm conversing with people, I hear them say things like, oh, yeah, this morning I see her at the gym. If you're talking about anything at all that happened 2 seconds ago, this morning, last Wednesday, last Saturday, then you must use the past tense if you wish to be grammatically correct. How do we form the past tense now? When we're making affirmative sentences that are declaring something, if the verb is regular, we simply add ed to the verb. So, for example, the verb talk is a regular verb. The past tense of talk is talked. We just add ed to form the past tense. And the beautiful thing about the past tense is that there is no subject verb agreement complication. All subjects use the same form. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I think so. The next category of verbs are those that end with an E. For example, the verb change ends with an E. And therefore, to form the past tense, we do not need to add ed. We simply add d because change already ends with e. So the past tense of change is changed. Next, we have verbs that end with a consonant before y. If there's a verb that ends in y, and it has a consonant before the Y, we have to do something special. We change that Y to an I, and then we add the ED. So, for example, the verb carry. The letter before the Y is R, and R is a consonant, so we are forced to change the Y to I and then add ED. So the past tense of carry is carried. Other verbs that would fit in this category would include words like marry, hurry, study, etc. They all have a consonant before the Y, so we change that Y to an I and then add ED. We also have a special set of verbs that have what we call the CVC structure. Whenever you're looking at a verb, always look at the last 3 letters in the verb. Okay, so for example, in the verb want, the last 3 letters are A and T, right? In the verb stop, the last 3 letters are T, O, P. If the last 3 letters have the CVC structure, consonant, vowel, consonant, then for most of those verbs, we double that final letter. In the verb mop, you have a mop and you mop the floor. You mop the floor in your house. It only has 3 letters, but those 3 letters do have the CVC structure. M is a consonant, O is a vowel, P is another consonant, and therefore the past tense of mop is mopped with double P's. We double the final letter for verbs that have that CVC structure. And again, to establish whether the verb has the CVC structure, we look at the last 3 letters in the verb. Okay? Hopefully that was crystal clear. All right, so we have some example sentences, and these are all affirmative sentences. The first sentence involves the verb to watch. And of course, when we conjugate the verb in the present tense, past tense, simple tense, whatever it is, then it loses the to, right? So the sentence says, when I was young, I watched a lot of TV. The verb watch is regular, so we simply add ed to form the past tense. Number 2 is the verb participate, which ends in an e. And because it already has an e, we just add d to form the past tense. Therefore, I participated in a conference last week. Number 3. The verb here is to study. Before the y, there is a consonant in the form of d. So we must change the y to an I and then add the ed ending. So I studied diligently for the exam. And the final example on this slide is with the verb stop. Now, if you look at the last 3 letters in stop, you will realize that, newsflash, stop has a CVC structure. So T being a consonant, O being a vowel, and P being a consonant, we would need to double the final letter, which is the P, and therefore we end up with the train, STOPPED, stopped abruptly. And when something happens abruptly, it happens rather quickly, unexpectedly. Okay? Now we move on to negative sentences. And for the negative sentences, we simply put did not or didn't before the original verb. So the verb in the negative sentences will no longer have ed at the end of it. We're going to have didn't or did not plus the original verb, the verb in its base form. Before we get into these sentences, I would also like to say that did not is mostly used for emphasis, but under normal circumstances, we use didn't. Okay, so didn't is definitely more popular. Also, if you are in college and you are writing a research paper, you're not permitted to use contractions, which is what didn't is. It's the contracted form of did not. Other contractions are like isn't, aren't, can't. We're not allowed to use contractions when we are writing academic papers. Let's get back to it. To form negative sentences in the past tense, we use didn't plus the original verb. For example, when I was young, I didn't watch a lot of TV. And again, that ed that was originally on watch now is removed in the negative. We only add ed in the affirmative. In the negative and interrogative that we're going to talk about later, we use the base form of the verb. Number 2 says, I didn't participate in a conference last week. Number 3, I didn't study diligently for the test. And number 4, the train didn't stop abruptly. And then we have interrogative or questions. The interrogative form are questions. And for yes or no questions, we use a formula. We start with did, then we add the subject, and then we add the verb. And did is used for all subjects, whether general or specific. So to form a question with the verb to study, we would say, did you study last night? The next question says, did Mr. James cook his family's dinner? And then we have, did the students read? Did the students read the book you assigned them? Did plus the subject plus the verb. Did you study? Did Mr. James cook? Did the students read? And then if we want to form specific questions, we have to add something to the previous formula. We now have to add those question words like who, what, when, where, how, why, how often, how frequently, how much, how many. I could go on and on. So we add the question word, then did, then the subject, and then the verb. So number 1 says, what did you do last night? What did you do last night? Number 2, Where did she go? Number 3, why did he call his mom? Number 4, how many students did you have today? If we go back to the previous slide, to answer these yes or no questions, we simply say, yes, I did, no, I didn't. Yes, you did, no, you didn't. Yes, he did, no, he didn't, etc. Right? So it's the same for every subject. But when we have specific questions, we have to give specific responses. So what did you do last night? I cleaned my room last night. Where did she go? She went to school. Why did he call his mom? He called his mom because he was broke. Number 4, how many students did you have today? I had 20 students in class today. So these are 4 specific questions that solicit a more specific response. Now let's put it all together. We have affirmative, negative, and interrogative. Again, all subjects use the same form. So we say, I worked at JFK Hospital for 10 years. She worked at a law firm for 5 years. My mother worked with the school district before retiring. All subjects use the same form. In the negative, we use didn't or did not plus the original verb. So if in the affirmative I say I worked at JFK for 10 years, the negative would be I didn't work at JFK for 10 years. There's no ed in the negative, just the original verb, and of course didn't before it. And then in the interrogative, I could ask one of my friends, did you work at that school for long? Did you work? Original verb again, and of course we use our formula. Did plus the subject plus the original verb. For those who would like to learn more about America, this is for you. Wyoming is an American state that is not very popular, but is quite gorgeous. Its population is approximately 584,000, and it is the least populated state in the US. I had the privilege of living there for 4 months and fell completely in love with the state. Enjoy these pictures. Now, for this part of the lesson, things can get a little bit tricky. And here we're talking about the pronunciation of ed. I'm sure as an ESL learner, you've probably heard people pronounce the ed words, the ed verbs with t or d or id, right? What is the difference and how can you pronounce them correctly? For verbs that end in a D or T sound, the pronunciation of ed is id. Id. So for example, want ends in a T sound, want. And therefore the pronunciation of this word is wanted. Wanted. Or in America, they say wanted as well, wanted. Participate actually ends with an E, and this is the reason why I've put a D or T sound. So you're not just looking at the final letter, you're listening for the final sound. In participate, that last sound is a T sound, participate. And so, because it has a T sound, the past tense of participate is participated or participated. For verbs that end in a C, CH, GH, K, P, SH, SS, TH, or X sound, the ed is pronounced t, like a T. For example, cook. It has that K sound at the end. So the past tense of cook is cooked. Cooked. Shop. That final sound is a P sound. P. Shop. So the past tense of shop is shopped. And because shop has the CVC structure, it's spelled S-H-O-P. H is a consonant, O is a vowel, P is a consonant. We double the final letter, which is the P. And finally, for verbs that end with a vowel sound, or GLNRVSWYZ sound, then the ed is pronounced d. D. So for example, the verb clean, C-L-E-A-N. That last sound is an N sound, clean. And because it's an N sound, the past tense of clean is pronounced cleaned. Love has that V sound at the end, so the past tense of love is loved. Okay, so we've covered a great deal of information today, and it's now time for a quiz. I hope you guys have taken notes. If you haven't, it would be a good time to go back and write some notes now, especially as it pertains to those ed endings. That's always problematic, especially for our ESL learners. So now let's tackle the quiz. Number 1 says Samantha blank the door. The verb is the verb to open or open, and the past tense of open being a regular verb is opened. So Samantha opened the door. We just add ed. Number 2 says Rachel blank the information to the clients. The verb is communicate. And communicate ends in an E, so we just need to add D to form the past tense. We therefore end up with Rachel communicated the information to the clients. Number 3, the committee blank the event. And the verb is to plan. What is the past tense of plan? Plan is also a regular verb, but it has the CVC structure. L is a consonant, A is a vowel, N is a consonant. So we're therefore going to double that last letter, which is the N. The answer is the committee planned the event, double N. Number 4, the pastor blank the couple. The verb is to marry. All right. The verb marry ends with a Y, and before the Y, there's a consonant. So we're going to change the Y to I and then add ED. So the pastor married the couple. Okay. Before we go on to the pronunciation part, for verbs like play and stay and pray, those verbs have vowels before the Y, so we treat them as regular verbs and we just add ED. So I just wanted to point that out. And now for the pronunciation. What is the ED pronunciation of the past tense of help? That last sound in help is a P sound, and therefore the past tense of help is helped. Helped. For number 6, what is the ED pronunciation of the past tense of wait? That final sound is a T sound, T sound, and you know that the T sound verbs are pronounced as id. So the past tense of wait is waited or waited. Number 7, what is the ED pronunciation of the past tense of to offer? That last sound is r, offer. And so the past tense of offer is offered. Offered. My suggestion to you would be to take notes on the ED pronunciation of the various verbs and then Look for a list of regular verbs on the internet and start pronouncing the words, start sounding them out. The more you do this, the easier it will become. And of course, the more you watch TV and listen to native speakers, you will also start doing this automatically, but it does take some work on your part. So I would suggest you do that if you truly wish to pronounce the ed endings in the proper way. Thank you all for being with me today. I will create a subsequent video that deals with the irregular verbs, and I hope you will subscribe, like this video, add a comment, and of course turn your notifications on so you can be notified when that video is posted. Thank you all again so much and have a wonderful day.